Hi, Lisa Billingham. Welcome to the Writing with Purpose podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Hi, Anna. Thank you for the invite.
You're more than welcome. So, Lisa, you are a multi-genre author
Yes.
with published books spread across romance, a kind of almost fictional aspect of a memoir. Maybe you can tell me how that's positioned. And more recently, a children's book.
Yeah.
You're also a speaker, an inspirational speaker, and a workshop facilitator. So we'll talk about each book as we go through. But just to kick us off, would you like to share how your writing journey started and what part reading and writing played in your childhood?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was later in life when my writing journey started, but my reading journey started when I was very young. I've always been a bookworm,
Yeah.
always. I always used to love reading, and I can't actually remember a time. I don't remember my childhood very well, but I can't remember a time when I didn't have my nose in a book. Um, so I guess writing was a natural progression, but it took me a long time to
Yeah.
it took me a long time to learn that. And it was only because I worked in Fuerteventura in January, February, and March 2020. Yeah. So I was flown home. I should have been out there for 9 months. And I was flown home because of the C word.
I like how you
And
said that, the Z word.
the new C word,
Yes.
that one. And I was sat in my parents' spare bedroom going, what am I going to do now? Because I was working as a holiday rep, so obviously no job. My house was rented out, so no house. My car, I'd sold my car before I went away, so I'd got a car over there because of my job. And I'm like, oh. So it was kind of stripping everything back to the bare minimum of like, okay, you've got your brain, you've got your hands, you've got whatever. What are you going to do with them? And I'd said 12 months virtually to the day before, to the, no, that's not right. 12, yeah, it is 12 months ago to the day, virtually when I started writing it. I'd been on a course um, about writing a business book,
Yeah.
and it just didn't feel right. I just thought, no, I don't want to write a business book. I was trying to be a coach and a crystal therapist, and I just thought, no, I don't want to write that. I want to write my story. So that kind of was bubbling away in the background and never thought anything of it. When I was working away, a couple of mornings I got up and I just started writing, just from nowhere. Um, and I left that. That's probably still in the cupboard because I haven't done anything with it. And then when I came back, I started to dig out some notes and started to make some notes about what I wanted in the book and how I wanted to write it. I got to a certain point where I'm like, I can't go any further without any help. I did creative writing course online, and I found somebody who was setting up a business as an editor and ghostwriter, and she helped me to put it into. It sounds strange, but to put it into words because it was
Mm.
all notes. It was just, and at that point I was like, I'm ready to publish, and she's like, no, you're not. You're not even close. And I'm like, oh, I think I cried for a week because I was,
Oh no.
oh no. But
Yeah.
reading and writing it is totally different because I read so much. I'm like, well, how can I get my book to sound like that or to make sense for a reader? So she helped me with that, and then as time's gone on, I did the follow up to that, and the first one, Katie, a New Chapter, is the one I wrote in 2020, based on my life experiences, and I used it as I suppose, a healing mechanism
Yeah.
to help me release the past and move forward really. And then I published the follow up to that, which was from a man's point of view. Similar context, if you like, with mental health issues and trauma. And I have started writing the third one, but as we were saying earlier before we recorded, sometimes it's just not the right time.
Yeah.
So I just have to put it away and just think I'll come back to it one day, and it might be 5 years down the line, but it's there, it's waiting, it's just sitting comfortably.
Yeah, I think you
Just
always have these ideas bubbling away at the background, but then there's like we were saying before, there's kind of an energy around these things sometimes, and it's feeling whether it's the right energy or whether you just sort of get put off for it. I know sometimes with projects, because I still do a bit of copywriting alongside the personal writing now, and I know immediately if it's not something that I'm going to get into, and I've gotten quite good at saying no to things, because although I can still do them, it gives me absolutely no joy. So why would you want to do them? And for sort of what you were saying there about the different chapters, or sorry, the different books, but they are referred to as chapters, aren't they, because it's from a different perspective.
Yeah,
That if something's not sitting right, just let it rest, and it will come
right.
at the
Yeah,
right time. And I think what you were saying there about it being something that you a kind of self-help, and it helped you to work through past experience, and this was something that I've got elements in what I'm writing,
mm,
but for a long time, until I did a proper study and sort of creative writing, I didn't realize that you could write a story in that way that wouldn't be a memoir or a biography. So for me, that was quite a realization that, oh, actually, I can use bits of what I've been through in the fictional form and embellish it in some way, and but you get the meaning there, don't you? You get the emotional aspect as well, so it's a really good way of writing something that's relatable to the readers.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah, so they are your, what do you call that series again, Lisa, with Tom and
That
Katie?
that first series is Never Look Back.
Never Look Back. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these random things come from nowhere, and I was like, well, what, what, what? Why did I call it that? And I still don't know. But it was one of those where it writing it, obviously, I was looking back. And with Tom, I was still looking back as well. And it's if we never look back, we can never see how far we've come.
Yes.
But there's also the reverse of that, that sometimes it's not advisable to look back because you're actually concentrating on the now and working towards your future.
Mm,
And I had counselling, coaching, all sorts, therapy, everything when I was struggling with my mental health. And 99% of them wanted to rake up the past all the time. And I'm like, what? I stopped in the end. I was like, what good is this doing me?
yeah.
And it wasn't really until I started writing that I actually could look back and go, no, I didn't want to rake up the past then. It was right for me to do it now, which was years later that, oh, I'm writing about this, writing about the domestic abuse chapter. And it was blooming hard, but it was the right time because it
Yeah.
was like, well, it's important. It's an important chapter to get in the book. And my friend who was helping me was like, if you don't do it, Lisa, you can't publish the book. And I'm like, ah. And at that time, it was more about, I want to publish the book rather than it was thinking about it's the healing process. So that kind of triggered something in my brain to go, yes, you've got to get it written, basically.
Yeah.
And working through that was quite hard. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, I think. And then when I recorded the audio version of Katie, obviously I was reading it and I hadn't read it since I'd written it. And it was quite, again, quite cathartic in the reading it
Mm,
because it was like, oh, yeah, it's not affecting me now.
yeah.
Not upset by it anymore. It is. It's one of those things. It's in the past. It's gone. I've moved on. And
Yeah.
it was quite a good way actually to sort of realise that I'd moved on was by having to read it again and thinking, oh, yeah. And I noticed a load of mistakes, which, oops, but
Yeah, you
your
can keep
first book, isn't
reading and
it?
yeah, you can keep reading and reading. You'll always find something, won't
Oh,
you?
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
but I think that's a really powerful example there, what you've shared. And it's great that you've been able to take yourself through that process and heal from that, and having that writing be the process that's helped you to, overcome the feelings, and to actually think, oh, okay, well that's happened. I'm over that now. I'm in a much better place now. And I can acknowledge it without, suppressing it somewhere, and having that come in other forms like mental health does do, and physical as well.
Yeah.
And I think that You're right. When I've just been to a journaling festival, and one of the speakers there was saying that she never actually explained what it was that she'd been through, but she'd had a trauma in her life, and she had gone to lots of different counselling sessions, therapy sessions, and nothing worked for her. She was not able to get over this in the way that she wanted to. And then there was a friend of hers, which must have been a short story facilitator, and she'd gone on this. I think it was an in-person session. Or sessions, and she started writing this story, which was just basically her account of what happened. And she said everyone at the
Oh,
end was saying, "Wow, that's amazing! It's really
yeah,
good, you know." Oh, that it's that good, it can't be true, sort of thing. And she's thinking, oh,
yeah,
that's absolutely true. But that was the thing that allowed her to get over her trauma and heal from it. Yeah, which is the writing process. People don't give writing the credit that it deserves. So you describe yourself as an intuitive writer.
yeah,
Is when you're saying that sometimes, oh, it's not the right time to write this story or to approach this, is that what you mean by intuitive? Listening to
yeah.
yourself?
I think it's that is part of it. I think it's a lot to do with, for many years, I did so many things that I didn't enjoy doing, that I was out of sync with, that wasn't, it wasn't me. I
Yeah.
worked in corporate for many, many years, and I spent most of those years trying to get out of there. And I think it was more about me being connected with me. You can talk about being connected spiritually, or, whatever you believe in, with religion or otherwise. But I think it was more, the more I learnt about myself, the more me I became,
Yeah.
which sounds a bit bizarre. But I was always trying to be and do something that convention told me I'd got to do. So I've got to work, I've got to do this, I've got to earn this living, I've got to run myself into the ground. And that was in effect what I did. And then all the counselling and things I'd had afterwards. And like the lady you were talking about earlier on, I didn't find it worked for me.
Mm.
And it was using the tools at my disposal. So the writing, when I started doing the writing, that I really started to see a difference. And I'd use the crystals, I'd use cards, I'd done readings, I used to do mediumship readings myself. And then I just thought, this isn't right for me. That I can do it. I've had some really, really good messages, but I found it was draining me. You might have a noise there.
Hear anything?
No. Um, I found it was draining me, so I thought, I've got to stop conforming, basically, and I've
Yeah.
got to do what I enjoy. And I'm in a really, really good position to do that, and I'm really grateful, because a lot of people aren't. Um, and it was listening to my intuition, the gut feeling. You can call it all sorts, can't you? You can call it God, you can call it
Mm.
Buddha, Jesus, Saint Michael, wherever that came from, or me, or my intuition, or my gut instinct, or the butterflies. It's so many different things to so many different people. And for me, it was being comfortable in me, in what I'm doing, and understanding me, and thinking, well, I don't have to do that. Like, you know, you've got to exercise every day, and you've got to eat healthy. Yes, we know, you've got to do all these. You've got to drink plenty of water. And then some days, like, right, oh, got to go to exercise class tonight. It's something I don't want to do. And I'm going to go, oh, and I was forcing myself. And you do get to that energy, don't you? Because you're like, I really don't want to go.
Yeah.
And even sometimes I really like that, the class that it is tonight, but I'm still not going because I don't feel like it. I don't feel I need to go. And like with choir, I was told when I was very young that I couldn't sing. And it was
Mm.
only when I was 46 that somebody got me singing on the radio show I used to do. And then I started having singing lessons. No, 40, I wasn't 46. It's 48, sorry. And I started to learn to sing. And she's like, you can sing. You just need to train your ears as well as your voice. And I'm like, oh. So for 40 years, I'd believed I couldn't sing.
Yeah.
I think, what could I have done in that 40 years that would have been made my, changed my life in some way? And that was partly, then I realized that like sometimes believing other people's not actually right for you as well.
Mm,
And you
yeah,
think, now I listen more to my intuition, coming back to intuition, it's, I believe that, but somewhere deep inside, there was a question mark.
yeah.
And it
Yeah,
was,
you knew that it wasn't the 100%
yeah,
true or yeah, true at all. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. But you'd listen to someone else instead of yourself.
exactly. And we do it, don't we? We do, because we
Yes.
think, oh yeah, they've lived it, they know it. And we can always advise, well, this worked for me. And, or, I can pick up on certain things, like you say, intuitively. Um, but it's, at the end of the day, our life is our choice, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's got to be what's right for us.
definitely.
And it's taken me so long to learn that.
Yeah,
Now I recognise the signs of, oh, that's bad, or that's perhaps you shouldn't take that path. And I keep getting those signs, and it's like, hang on a minute, why am I still doing this? Then it
yeah,
happens again. You have a little while, oh, that's a good one. This path feels really good. And then, oh, look over here, there's something that's caught my eye, and oh, let's go down there. And then you go, oh, maybe I should have done, come back. But until you get there, sometimes you don't know.
no.
You've got to go through that process, haven't you, of like, well, I'll try it and see.
Mm,
But now I'm like, well, actually, I really want to do that, so I'm going to do it. Or I'm not sure. And now for me, a not sure is actually a no.
So you
And it
don't
might
wait
come
for
round
something
again.
else. It's always a no. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've
It,
probably learned that that's a no by following those little breadcrumbs for a bit and then getting to a point thinking, no. So
yeah,
you kind
yeah,
of, it's been a bit of a
yeah.
lesson learned for a few times to realize actually that is a no.
No. Yeah. Like, it's a bit common sense, what really, but it's like I'll carry on doing that exercise class, or I'll carry on doing that choir, or I'll carry on doing this or whatever, or I'll carry on working such and such or in corporate or whatever. And then it's not until you're out of it and you can actually look back that you go, well, why on earth did you stay there that long? The signs were there,
Yeah.
but if you're not feeling yourself, um if you're not recognizing the signs, then the signs can be there all you like. There can be massive neon bright things, but if you're still not recognizing them, it doesn't make any difference. It's until you recognize that, oh, actually, maybe not. And I don't question everything, and I try not to overthink things, although I am like, you know, known for doing that. That now I think, I see some, oh, shall I go to that? Oh, yeah, I really want to go to that. So it's that
Yeah. You
really
feel
wanting.
the tug
You can feel,
immediately for
yeah,
something that you want to do. Yeah. And I think it's ultimately it is what you were saying before. It's that getting to know yourself. It's that self-awareness. And we have to go through certain things that, maybe give us a little, the odd bit of a knock here and there to say, actually, are you sure? Are you sure? And until we start to listen to those things, and that could be any number of years, any number of situations or what
yeah,
people are going through. But I think definitely 40s is, for me, it was a time to start paying more attention to what you want to do and
yeah.
also to stop ignoring those signs.
Right.
I've been trying to remind you for so long that you're like, oh no.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, I had that sign in 1990. It took me to 2024 to realise it.
Brilliant. But it's so true. It's so true. So where does your inspiration for your stories come from? So you did the chapters first. You did Katie, you did Tom.
Yeah,
Then you wrote a love story, well, a romance
yeah,
story, should I
romance story,
say,
yeah.
and you've just published a children's story. So this is why we sort of call you a multi-genre author. Where did those inspiration for all those different stories and genres come from?
They've all come from experiences or um things that happened. Sometimes little nudges. So the romance came from a situation that I was in at the time. And I think it was me kind of working through my feelings in that book of
Mm,
writing, what was going on at the time and in different contexts, but writing that. So that was a romance. And that was just literally sitting down, and I started writing, and I actually wrote the naughty chapter first, which isn't the
The
beginning.
naughty chapter.
Naughty chapter. And I was like, oh, okay. And I think that comes like quite close to the end. And like we were talking before we recorded, that you don't know where certain stories are going. And sometimes you've got the ending and not the beginning, and bits in the middle, and that was mine. I was just like, I sat down and I was reading a book by Prince's first wife, strangely enough, and another autobiography of Prince. And that was the inspiration for me to actually finish that novel, well, novella. Because I was reading, I was going, yeah, because I'd got in my head, oh, I'm not going to publish this. I'm just writing this for me. And throughout Prince's history, really, it was like, just be yourself and do what's right for you. And again, another, be self-aware. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to finish this. And I was virtually at the end, and I thought, I don't want to drag it out and go, right, I'm going to write it as a novel, or I'm going to do a 3-parter. That didn't feel right to do. It was too big, really, for like short stories. So I thought, well, I'll do it as a novella. You don't see them very often now. And I thought, no, I'm going to do it. And I was sitting down to write the ending, and I'm like, oh, do they get married? And I was like, oh, no.
That
And I
doesn't
put a
feel
post,
right.
no, I put a post out on social media, and somebody went, oh, no, Lisa, you can't put marriage at the end. Oh, no. So I thought, oh, okay, what can I do? So I just literally sat down, and I just thought, right, just finish it. Right. And then there's a twist at the end that you're not expecting. And the same with the children's books. With Charlie's not the one that was published. Charlie's the dog in the first 2 books. And I was desperate to write the 3rd book that relates to that series. And I just sat down one day, and just a little like, excuse me, is anybody there? Why don't you write Charlie? And I went, oh, why didn't I think of that before?
Yeah.
So like
Well, you
within a month.
did, but
Yeah, exactly. It just, yeah. So within a month, it was like done.
wow.
Obviously, it's in its editing process now. So, but with Sedrick, I actually wrote a blog about this because it was quite.
And Sedrick is the one that's just been published,
Sedrick's the
isn't
one
it?
that
Yeah.
that we just
End of
published.
2024. Yeah.
Yeah. On the 14th of December, I'm just thinking, I hope I've got my day counts right with all my posts out there, because somebody's going to go, that's not that number of days, Lisa. 14th of December 2022. I was sat in a coffee shop with my parents. Just so it's a week after my birthday, and just obviously, just before Christmas. And I gave myself permission to just chill. I just thought, like, give yourself a day off kind of thing. Christmas is coming. What you're going to do now? You can't chase work, because I was in chase energy a lot of the time then. You can't chase any work. You can't send any letters out. I'd just written to loads of prisons and corporates, and I got nowhere. And I thought, just stop and just give your brain a break. And I'm sat in the coffee shop, and I drink green tea. I don't drink coffee, and I rarely drink hot chocolate, but I'm sitting there and I've got this cup drinking green tea. And the cup was quite a wide top. So, the custard.
There are other restaurants
There
available.
are other coffee shops out there, by the way, folks.
No, I know what you mean. They're wide, they're small at the bottom,
really
but they're
wide.
very wide at the top. So
Yeah.
they go cold quite quickly, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, make you buy more.
And yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I wish I'd have bought one now, because and I'm like, I'm drinking it. Wow, that covered my face. I couldn't see
I
anything.
see the eye. Yes,
Yeah.
from the description of the book, I see where you go. Sorry, I interrupted. Carry on. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So it's like I'm covered and I can't see anything, and I'm like, oh, so my eyes are like roaming around. I'm like, what's in there? And I put the cup down, and I went, there's got to be a story in there. There's got to be a children's story in there. And so I came home. So I'd walked up. It's only about 20 minutes. So I walked home, and I just sat down and I just started writing. And then the next day I just carried on, and I'd got 6,000 words.
Wow.
And I was talking to a friend of mine and at the time, and I just went, oh, I've got this children's story and I want to publish it. And he's like, Liz, don't do anything rash, just keep writing. Just literally keep writing. So the upshoot of it was I'd got an absolute abundance of short stories with the same character in,
Mm.
or the same characters. So I put it together because he goes through the arcs of a rainbow in the stories. And I thought this was all, and at the time it was all kind of connected to like the crystal therapy and the chakra
Yeah,
side
the
of
chakras with the different
things,
colours. Yeah.
colours and
Mm.
things. And I thought, oh, where's this going? And I had no idea. I just carried on writing, and I showed it to a teacher, and their comment at the time was it would make a very good subject matter for the PHSE curriculum. And I'm like, what's that?
Mm.
Because it's been a long time since I was at school, so I did a load of Googling and thought, oh, that's really interesting. And it's real life topics. 99% of them have happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
or there's something that I think, well, how would a child kind of perceive that sort of subject matter? Because there's bullying, there's maths. Maths is was my worst subject at school next to sciences, and I really struggled. So there's a chapter in there about maths homework,
Mm.
and that he's stuck on it. So it is okay for you to ask for help, and all kind of little morals to the stories.
Mm.
And literally came from that one thought of me being sat in that tea room with my head in a mug and going, there's got
Literally.
to be, literally, yeah, literally, there's got to be a story here. And when I sat and started writing it, you see some of these like really big um coffees and chocolates, don't you, with like cream and
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
I couldn't drink them. I do occasionally drink hot chocolate, very, very occasionally, but only a normal one because I couldn't eat the stuff with the cream and everything on. It's just too sickly. And I put that, and I thought, well, I'm not being funny, but a child is not going to go, I'm going in a tea room for a cup of tea.
No, no, you're right.
Can I have
Yeah,
a green tea, Mum?
yeah,
I don't think so. So I thought, what can I kind of do? So it was hot chocolate is a classic, isn't it, really?
yeah.
With all the trimmings and things. And yeah, it kind of just grew from there. And I've got
Wow.
another two books that I've started to put together. And I think I wrote a story the other day. I'd had a cold a couple of months ago. And I thought, oh, I haven't done that yet with any characters actually.
Mm.
So I thought, ah, so I wrote Sedrick had a cold the other day. So
Brilliant.
hopefully that'll end up in one of the later books.
Yeah, but what you were saying there, you'd given yourself that day off. You'd been working, you were in a different sort of energy. You'd just gone out with no expectations whatsoever, with a bit of social time, with a couple with your folks, and that idea came to you, and that quite often happens, doesn't it? I think,
Yeah,
you're thinking about something completely different, so you're relaxed, your mind is more open, and then something just pops in. Yeah, I've got a Trello board like an online
oh yes,
like a
yeah.
tag yeah, you just create notes like post-it notes
Notepad
but an
thing.
electronic
Yeah,
version. Yeah, so
yeah,
if I get an idea now, I try and transfer it there so that anything um that I want to revisit later is just
yeah,
put somewhere. But I think part of it is like what you were saying. You freed up a lot of your time, and because you going right back to before you wrote Katie, you'd got that time just to think and be and let the ideas flow. And quite often, with how busy life is these days, we never get that time to just let the ideas flow. Which I'll ask you another question if that's okay, because that's just led me on to something. I go outside quite often to have
yeah,
those kind of expansive moments, if you like, and to leave the
yeah,
work inside, step outside
yeah,
with a thought or something like that, and see what might come. So I'm a big
yeah,
believer in nature being one of those sort of creative prompts, if you like a bit
Yeah.
of a co-facilitator, the same as going into a coffee shop or something, which I know a lot of people get inspiration from that, right? But what role does nature play in your life? Do you have any of those sort of links with nature or any aspect of outdoors?
I'm a tree hugger.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, you would have loved one of the workshops that we had at the weekend because it was all about trees.
Oh, what? Really?
Yeah, it was all about trees, this journaling workshop. It was a lady called Jackie Holder. I'll send you the details.
Oh,
She's from London, and yeah, she loves trees. So this whole journaling workshop was about trees, the wisdom of trees. We had to pick trees. We had a guided exercise where we thought about our ideal place outdoors, and then a place that we didn't want to go to, and then trying
yeah.
to kind of put the good into the bad, and then see how we felt about it. So yes, you would have loved that. But yes, do tell me more.
Oh, I my head was like all over the place and had been for like several years on and off. And with COVID, it was another like fear. So it's trying to take away the fear because it's like, you're all right, you're going to be fine. And, telling yourself that all the time. And I even got worn out with that because I'm like, oh God. Um, and because of only being able to go out walking during lockdown, I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. And I found so many places so close to home that I didn't know existed
Yeah,
until one of them I found when I had my hysterectomy, and the other one I found when we were in lockdown. And I do those walks quite regularly. A couple of them are by the river, nature reserves,
you still do them now.
and I still do them now, yeah.
Mm,
Um, and I think I was probably fitter during lockdown than I am now. Then, I do an exercise class, but I do try to walk every day.
mm,
And I don't put the pressure on myself to walk, like 10,000 steps a day or anything. I go out to enjoy it.
mm.
And I do find that I used to do walking meditations as well. But I do find that, especially if I've had a particularly busy day or a particularly stressful day, or I've been to places and there's a lot of energy, other people's energy around, and to try and kind of release that and let go, because I'm being an empath, it's just like, whoa,
Yes,
no.
you suck it
So
in.
it's just got grounding myself. I find that, and I do try to walk early in the morning if I can, or first thing if I can, to kind of ground myself. And sometimes I will. I haven't done it for a while actually. I do. There's a couple of trees that I do tend to like gravitate to, and I'll just put my hands on the trees and just relax and just let. Oh.
Yeah,
And sometimes see like swirly patterns and things, and just think and I love, and I never used to, my parents used to say, are you going to come for a walk? And I'm like, "What am I for a walk?" Unless there's something at the end of it, like a cup of tea, I ain't going. And
yeah.
then with lockdown, working abroad, I think made a difference as well. Of being able to go to the beach. I
Mm,
wasn't far from the beach in both countries that I lived in. Um, so that was easy. It was like, well, I'm going to the beach, or I'm going swimming, or I'm going skinny dipping, or, so there was something else around it. And that in itself as well helped. And then when I came back, I thought, well, I can't sit at home all day, and sort of having my mind freed was forced on me with the lockdown and things. It's
mm,
like, well, you haven't got anything to think about because there's nothing you can do about it. Um, and, walking at different times of the day now, walking at different times of the year, totally different. Like the first signs of spring.
yeah.
I actually noticed the first signs of spring last year, and then autumn with the leaves, and then like the summer, the winter with the snow. And you like the seasons changing though, aren't they now?
Mm,
But I think nature is a massive healer,
yeah,
massive healer. And if you can get out as often as you can.
yeah.
Sometimes I walk to, I've got a shopping centre that's about 35 minutes walk from me. Sometimes I'll walk up there just to walk, and then I'll go in for a coffee, come back, or I'll go up there, do some shopping, have a coffee, come back. Um, but 9 times out of 10, I'll walk every day and just go down to the local woods or even up to the park. Sometimes a short walk,
Mm,
but just to de-stress and just to like chill.
Yeah. I
And
think
I
yeah.
don't think you can beat being at one with nature, to be honest.
No, I totally agree. And I think, again, some people live in places where that's not easily accessible, or they get into a routine where, particularly if they live in a city, they probably work long hours and then they have social with the friends afterwards, or they just go home and, flop in front of the TV, and nature doesn't really get a lead in at
No,
all in those sorts of situations. And I
no.
think just that whole movement in the fresh air just helps to free your mind as well. You say de-stress. If you've got a lot going on in your head, somehow nature just helps with that clarity
Yeah.
aspect of it. And there is a lot of science around plants and trees and the kind of chemicals that are in the air that we can't see, or but they absorb into us and help with our well-being. So the more we can get outside, the
Yeah, the
better.
better.
So we've talked a lot about the books. Do you want to just touch on a little bit about some of the other work that you've done, Lisa? So you've done workshops, you've facilitated things in prisons as well. So you spoke about that time when you were sending off letters and you'd heard
Yeah.
nothing, but in that meantime, you have heard something because you worked in situations with prisoners. So do you want to just share a little bit
Yeah.
about that, and then we'll sort of talk about how people can reach you?
Oh, okay, thank you. I have, yeah. My aim for next year, for sort of 2025 and going forwards, is to do the same sort of things in schools as well, like with the book. And I use my experiences and my writing to um either do talks and the prison work. Uh, this year's prison work started with funnily enough, a post on LinkedIn. Somebody had posted and somebody else tagged me in it. They were looking for visiting authors.
Mm,
Um, and they just wanted a speaker. And I'm like, hmm. And I said, well, I'm happy to do that, but I would rather do like a mini workshop as well, so that I can tell them my story, why I wrote the first book, how the other writing came about, but also to get them to do some writing.
yeah,
And it was exceptionally well received. So I've been invited to go back again later. That was middle of the year, and later in the year, last week was the first one to do another writing workshop to help them write some short
yeah,
stories.
brilliant.
And it's it was a lot of fun actually, because we're playing music and all sorts in there. It was
Yeah.
quite random. And I plan workshops to the nth degree, and then I stopped because I thought it's never how you expect it to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let it be more participant led
But
rather
yeah,
than giving them a, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And being intuitive as well. Very much, you can walk into a room and think, well, I'm going to say this, or this is the topic today, or whatever, and it totally turns on his head because the energy in the room, or something said, or there's a topic that's being discussed and things like that. So it's obviously that's high on somebody's priority, and it's like, okay, we'll address that. That's obviously an issue. So, you go down a different route. But always with the writing and the reading. And because of some prisoners with learning difficulties, or neurodivergent, like dyslexia and things, they're struggling,
Mm,
really struggling. Um, and I saw some major breakthroughs with some of the lads that it's been both men's prisons that I've worked in so far,
mm.
with them actually just sitting and reading my book and then
Yeah,
asking me
brilliant.
questions. And some of them have even gone on to start writing their own
Yeah.
stories and things. So it's a really interesting dynamic. I've only worked with prisoners so far, but my intention is to work hopefully with families and with staff. Yep,
Mm,
not moving forward. But it's those opportunities, isn't it? It's where am I needed, and that's where that's where I go. But
yeah.
it's really interesting, some of the things that they come out with, because I don't say you've got to write a short story, you've got to write a poem or a song. You write what you feel, and
Mm,
you write from the heart.
mm.
And some like gut-wrenching stories, even if take prisons aside, but other talks that I've done, or other workshops that I've done with charities or with other people, um, some really writing comes out, and it's, well,
Yeah.
I can't write this. How do I write that? And the only advice, and the best advice, I think, was write from the heart. That was given to me a few years ago, because I was like, write for an audience. And I always remember my old accountant's publisher told him he'd got to write for an audience. So he'd got to go away and write something different. He'd written 150,000 word novel.
Wow.
And she'd read it and she'd, whatever. Oh, yeah, yeah, brilliant. We'll publish it sometime. But you have to go away and write this. And I went, what? And
Mm,
it's writing for a specific genre because that's what sells. And I'm like,
mm,
oh. And I just tried it and I thought,
yeah.
no,
And
I've got
who
to write.
who is that helping apart
Yeah.
from the pockets
Apart from
of the publishing
exactly.
industry?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And I think do you think would it be fair to say that you write for you first and then
Yeah.
that then is sort of fine-tuned and developed to get the message out so that the readers then will understand it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, which I think writing from the heart is, isn't it? And it's you saying that is sort of provide and saying whatever form they want to write in, if they want to just do bullet points or a short story or a poetry or however it comes out that feels right for them, that is their gateway to letting whatever they've been potentially holding up inside or struggling with
Yeah.
a release
Yeah.
to come
Def
out. Yeah. Yeah,
definitely.
which for anybody who's suffered from anything, it might be highly traumatic or just something that has formed a limiting belief for that person that perhaps wasn't that traumatic, but for them it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just helps them with their mental health and
Yeah. Oh,
help
massively.
with that self-awareness, and other people can relate to that. So with the prisoners reading your book, they're relating to it. They're also seeing another perspective from a female perspective as well that they perhaps might not have thought about before, so it's helping them to become more what's the word I'm looking for, um
Aware.
yeah, aware.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That did actually
yeah.
happen in one of the prisons, because the domestic abuse chapter we were talking about earlier on, I found it really hard to write, and we were talking about that. I did like talks and Q&A and workshops and things, different things. But this one particular lad was in there for alleged domestic abuse. He was on remand, so it was still to come to court. And when I'd finished, I did the last kind of session. I wasn't there to run the workshops. I was just there as a visiting author, and I just went back a few more times just to get more experience with working with prisoners.
Mm,
And he said, he just shook my hand and said, thank you. He said, because I can see it from a different perspective I've never been able to see before.
mm,
And I think just that. And there was also another one who actually like sat down afterwards, wouldn't leave the room. And he was like, he he'd said he was abused as a child. He'd never told anybody.
mm.
And I said that, and just that was enough for him to open up and then to get the help
Yeah.
to kind of move forward. It's that sometimes it's just that one step. It's like that open door, isn't it?
Mm,
That it's okay to talk about this, or it's not your fault, or different things. And you can only speak from experience
mm.
of what you've been through. The abuse I lived through won't be the same as his,
Mm,
but it's just that there's something that you kind of connect to, and um that somebody else has been through it, so you can survive it. And also
yeah.
the other side of the coin, where people who've read it who haven't been in that situation, it was an eye-opener, because a friend of mine had read it and he said, I keep reading that chapter because I can't believe that people do that.
Mm,
And I'm like, they do. And then you kind of, it opens it up another door. It opens up a whole new conversation, doesn't it, of where do you go, how does the what starts it, how do you end it, how do you come out of it. um and the first thing for me was leaving that situation, was having other people say, that's not right.
mm,
I actually thought it was normal at the time. I'm like, well, I've made my bed, I lie in it, this is my situation, I've got no choice but to go through this, up until the point where he nearly killed me, or one
yeah.
of the abusers nearly killed me. And I'm thinking, this kind of ain't right.
Mm,
But it takes something, and until it takes that something, we do think. this is normal, this is life, this is just how it is, and
This is how it is. Yeah.
yeah,
Circumstances that you just think this is the life. Now it's almost coming to an acceptance point
yeah,
almost
yeah,
of this is, this is what I'm in. But I think, yeah, just from, you writing that, putting that in, the whole book, not just that particular chapter, but the whole
yeah,
thing, and, having the confidence to share that
yeah,
is so encouraging then for other people who've been in it, as you say, situations will differ, but
yeah,
relate to that,
yeah,
then is giving them the confidence to not feel
yeah,
alone, and boost them to say something, or yeah, just express the fact, which in itself is helpful, because then you're not, you haven't just held it in for
exactly,
yourself. There's
exactly,
there's then going to be a support network for them.
exactly. Yeah, definitely.
So well done, first
Thank
and
you.
foremost, and putting that first book together and having that as your own healing journey, and then being able to that with other people and help so many other people with that. And look where that one book has taken you, to all of these other facets of writing and sharing. And it sounds as though you're on a roll.
Yeah, finally, that's
Yes,
my purpose. You
exactly,
wouldn't think it would be so
exactly.
difficult, would you? But it is.
Yeah, it is. But I think, like we've touched on before the recording and during the court recording, that there's so much other stuff going on. Sometimes we just don't have that space to think
No,
that
no,
there
so
could be another
important.
way, or there's other choices out
Yeah,
there. And as well, the cost of living and that sort of thing. Now, if people are in a job, they don't want to change a job or swap
no,
and try and do something else, because there's a lot at stake,
yeah,
particularly if you've got a family. Those
yeah,
sorts of things are difficult. But if you've got a desire and a passion for something, it will always work out, because if you
absolutely.
make mistakes, well, mistakes aren't mistakes, are they? They're just learning curves, lessons learned,
Yeah,
and to actually finding that path that you should be
yeah,
on. So we'll share a lot of links and things in the show notes, Lisa, because you've got a lot of information on your website. People can get books from you. You can have signed copy as well for
yes,
some of the books.
yeah,
There's now an
yeah,
audio version, isn't there, for Katie?
yes, there is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you also offer one-to-one sessions with people, and also coaching to help them get
yeah.
their story out there as well. So we can share all of that stuff in the show notes. Is there anything that you want to draw people's attention to, and how best can they contact you as well?
I don't think so. It's one of those things, isn't it? For so many years, I've kind of posted on social media of all sorts of things, and I think, you know what? I actually enjoy it more when I've stood back and I've gone, I'm actually posting something that I've enjoyed. I've enjoyed doing these little snippets of Sedrick, which are starting to come out now. So by the time this is released, we'll probably be partway through those little snippets. But my email address is lisa@lisambbillingham.com. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me, then please feel free to drop me an email. And like you say, there's my website and all the links that will be in the notes.
In the notes. Perfect, thank you. And you also have a newsletter that people can
I
sign up
do,
to and
yeah.
find out how to get some hold of new material. And you also
Yeah,
share the experiences that you go through as well, so people can see how you're getting those ideas and the
yeah.
writing journey that you're going through. So, yeah, well, it's been absolutely incredible to chat to
Thank
you,
you.
Lisa.
Yeah,
I mean, we've had a pretty
good.
good conversation before we started recording. So
Yeah, we have, yeah.
you are
Yeah,
one of those
fabulous.
people that I could just natter to for ages. So, but we never met face to face, have we, in person? So I just,
No, we should, yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So we
absolutely.
should do that in a coffee shop with a big
Definitely, yeah. Get the
open
creative
topped mug.
juices flowing. Get your head in a cup of, get your head in a cup of
Definitely.
hot chocolate.
Most definitely. So, yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been
Thank
an
you.
absolute pleasure even to chat to you.
Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you for listening to today's Writing with Purpose podcast. Having conversations with fellow writers or adventure enthusiasts brings two of my biggest loves in life together, writing and nature connection. I've been a copywriter and content creator for 23 years, but my passion is writing for well-being, and I'm on a mission to share the benefits that putting pen to paper has for personal wellness with as many people as possible. If you want to learn more about writing for your well-being and journaling techniques, please connect with me in my Facebook group, Journaling with Anna.